Next on Current News, after a Dutch teenager let herself die, Pope Francis is speaking out. The latest from the Vatican is coming up.
One Brooklyn family is fighting to be reunited with their father as the mother battles cancer. I'm Tim Harfman. I'll explain how an outpouring of support and the church is playing a role. That's coming up.
Pope Francis will meet Russian President Vladimir Putin at the Vatican on the 4th of July. There's also news about the Pope and married priests. Plus, turning the tables on a robber, and it's all caught on camera, a senior citizen refusing to be a victim. The news starts right now. Good evening, I'm Tamara Lane. The Pope is speaking out after a 17-year-old Dutch girl, Noah Pothoven, was allowed to let herself die after suffering bouts of depression. Melissa Butts reports that the case is sparking new discussions about the sanctity of life at the Vatican.
17-year-old Dutch Noah Pothoven is the most recent case in the debate for right to life, many questioning whether it was assisted suicide or euthanasia that led to her death. Having a terminal illness, being given a limited time to live, or unbearable suffering. These are all reasons one can request euthanasia or assisted suicide in the Netherlands. Father Gonzalo Miranda, an expert on euthanasia in Rome, explains that while morally both are a means to an end, legally they're viewed differently.
For a legal point of view, it is very important because in some places euthanasia isn't legal, but assisted suicide is.
He says when the state does not uphold the dignity of life, an unnecessary pressure is created.
This young 17-year-old girl who just committed suicide in Holland. She had a series of problems and a temptation to kill herself. When she finds an environment in society that says it's a right, if you want euthanasia, you have a right to it. This creates a terrible pressure.
He asserts a definition of who is able to die and when is established. If a person is young, healthy, or useful, the state automatically gives them a greater dignity than an older person who is in deteriorating health.
We have two types of citizen, Group A and Group B. For some, we have to protect their life, even against their will. For others, no.
Pope Francis also tweeted after Noah's death saying euthanasia and assisted suicide are a defeat for all. We are called never to abandon those who are suffering, never giving up, but caring and loving to restore hope. In the United States, physician-assisted suicide is legal in some states, and suicide is the second most leading cause of death for people ages 10 to 34. At the Vatican, Melissa Butts, Currents News.
The fight for life is taking a new turn tonight. The Bishop of Springfield, Illinois, Thomas Paparocki, is barring some state politicians from receiving Holy Communion. He is invoking canon law after state lawmakers passed a bill that declared abortion a fundamental right. The bishop is strongly urging the leaders who push the legislation through to go to confession. Otherwise, they are not to be admitted to Holy Communion because they have obstinately persisted in promoting the abominable crime and very grave sin of abortion. Archbishop William Lori says investigators have found credible allegations made against another U.S. bishop. Lori was tapped by the Vatican to investigate accusations against Bishop Michael Bransfeld, the former head of the Diocese of Wheeling-Charleston. Bishop Lori says that an independent investigation determined that allegations of sexual and financial misconduct were credible. In a letter to the West Virginia Diocese, the Archbishop writes of Bransfield's 13 years as a bishop, saying, "There is no excuse nor adequate explanation that will satisfy the troubling question of how his behavior was allowed to continue for as long as it did." A summit of all U.S. bishops is only days away. The highly anticipated meeting in Baltimore is expected to tackle the best ways to protect minors from abuse in the wake of the Pope's global gathering at the Vatican in February. National correspondent for the Tablet and Crux, Christopher White, joins us now. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Tamara. Good to be with you.
When the bishops get together, closing the gap on bishop accountability is likely to be their #1 goal. How do you believe they plan to do this?
Well, look, the bishop's going to come together next week, and they're going to say, look, in 2002, we passed what's known as the Dallas Charter, which sort of outlined the new standards for protecting minors. And they enacted a zero-tolerance policy saying that if you are a priest found guilty of abuse, then you're out. There's no room in the priesthood for you. But the problem with that is that it didn't hold bishops accountable, and it omitted them. So they're going to try to close the gap in new measures enacted in Baltimore next week.
Are they going to be guided by what Pope Francis put forward last month for the global church?
Yes, so Pope Francis issued new global guidelines saying that by next June, every diocese around the world has to have new standards in place. And so they're going to try to get this done next week. And what they're going to do is rely on what's known as the metropolitan option. So that if an allegation of abuse against a bishop comes forward, it will then be investigated by the metropolitan bishop. So there are about 145 dioceses in the country, and then about 32 territorial archdioceses over these smaller dioceses. And this new model will rely on the head metropolitan to invest claims against other bishops.
So how does this differ from what the U.S. bishops had hoped to accomplish when they met last November?
So this new structure will rely on the metropolitan archbishop to do the investigations, whereas last November they were trying to pass a proposal that would have relied on an outside nonprofit board to be set up. But the Vatican said, hold on, we can't do that because it would effectively give lay people more power than the Pope, and they put a kibosh on that.
Well, besides dealing with protections for minors and bishops' accountability, what other topics will dominate the agenda?
Clearly immigration. I mean, this has been put on the back burner and it's such a pressing issue in the country. I think the bishops are hoping to turn a page so that they can restore their moral credibility and address an issue that's near and dear to many Catholics.
Thank you, Christopher.
Thanks, Tamara.
Weeks after the deadly stabbing of 19 elementary students in Japan, the Catholic school where the violence occurred has been reopened. Caritas Elementary School in Kawasaki is now under the watchful eyes of security and parents. The bus stop was also heavily guarded. A 51-year-old man attacked the female students while they were in line to board a school bus on May 28th. He later died from self-inflicted injuries. A major co-cathedral in Florida is mostly undamaged after an apparent act of arson. According to Bishop William Wack, the presider's chair and bishop's chair were set on fire and destroyed. The church's walls and the bishop's crest were charred. No one was hurt, but police are looking for answers on how the cathedral fire started. A deadly military exercise at West Point is under investigation tonight. A troop carrier rolled over with cadets aboard at the upstate New York Military Academy, killing one of the cadets. The superintendent of the U.S. Academy at West Point details the accident, expressing his heartfelt sadness for the incident.
Today was a tragic day for the West Point community in our United States Army. Early this morning, a troop vehicle carrying 20 cadets operated by 2 soldiers was traveling to a land navigation training site when it was involved in a rollover accident. One cadet is confirmed deceased as of 10:58 a.m. We train very heavily here at West Point, and the training they do is part of our normal senior training. They've been doing this for some time now. We want to make sure that our soldiers and our cadets train in realistic training environment, so this is a part of our realistic training.
The cadets are part of the West Point class of 2020. President Trump also sent his condolences to the Academy. It was codenamed Operation Overlord, now famously known as D-Day, the epic battle to free occupied Europe from the clutches of Nazi Germany. Today, leaders and veterans gathered to honor the fallen and to pay homage to the heroes who still remember the history-making Battle of Normandy. President Trump and French President Emmanuel Macron stand in tribute as taps rings out. They commemorate a day filled with gratitude and remembrance. It was 75 years ago today that nearly 160,000 Allied troops, including 73,000 American soldiers, landed on the French beaches of Normandy to push the Nazis out of France. More than 9,000 American troops lost their lives fighting in the D-Day invasion. A visit to the American cemetery in Normandy, a sober reminder of the sacrifices made by the greatest generation.
75 years ago today, I landed on Omaha Beach, came off the ship, down the rope ladder, and got into one of these LCIs, it's a landing craft infantry. I was the first one in that ship, so I sat right back by the pilot.
Now, more than 7 decades later, the number of World War II veterans has dwindled, and the commemoration meant to honor those sacrifices has taken on an added meaning.
You are among the very greatest Americans who will ever live. You are the pride of our nation. You are the glory of our republic. And we thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
Hailed as heroes, 60 aging World War II veterans were in attendance, some still struggling with the memories.
I always get a little lump in my throat. As all those guys, we had almost 2,000 D-Day, just on Omaha, 18, 19, 21-year-old guys. It makes me, I get choked up.
The biggest air and sea invasion to ever take place. D-Day marked the beginning of the end of World War II, a defining moment that changed the course of history. During today's ceremony, taps was played on a trumpet that originally belonged to a soldier who stormed the beaches of Normandy with that very instrument in his hand. It was recently restored for the commemoration. Pope Francis is recalling the bravery of D-Day, saying, "I remember with gratitude all the soldiers who, coming from several countries, including France, had the courage to commit themselves and give their lives for freedom and peace. I entrust them to the infinitely merciful love of the Lord, as well as the millions of victims of this war." In recalling the sacrifice of the brave soldiers, Archbishop Timothy Broglio of the U.S. Archdiocese of Military Services is praying for world peace. "We ask God that their sacrifice not be in vain. We beg Him to transform our power to turn war into a force for peace, to transform our weapons into plowshares, to give us the ability to negotiate, to talk, and to listen." Pope Francis will allow married priests if bishops request it at their upcoming meeting on the Amazon region. That's according to German Cardinal Walter Kasper, who is close advisor to Francis, saying it is his judgment that the request will be approved. But he says the ordination of women to the diaconate is out of the question, as it would undermine a millennia-old tradition. Francis is set to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin at the Vatican on the 4th of July. Catholic leaders from Ukraine will gather at the Holy See shortly after to discuss the continuing conflict there and the fallout from the separation of the Russian and Ukrainian Orthodox churches. This will be the third meeting between the Pope and President Putin. There's a lot more news headed your way the moment a senior citizen finds himself face to face with a robber, and the surprising way he reacted caught on camera. There's a big addition to the tablet this week. Editor-in-Chief Jorge Dominguez will be here to tell us all about it, and how rounds of golf are helping to keep Catholic education alive. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. Maria Barragan is an immigrant mother fighting to live and to care for her 2 young boys. Others are stepping in to help them. Currents News' Tim Harfman reports on her biggest worries.
I'm sick. I'm sad. I'm scared, everything.
Maria Barragan has been given weeks to live. Her doctors say after battling stage 4 cancer for over a decade, chemotherapy is no longer working. Maria's a U.S. citizen. She's an immigrant from Guatemala. She's worried most about her sons, 13-year-old Christian and 9-year-old Daniel.
So much stress for me. I need help.
But her husband Benjamin is stuck in Mexico. He's been there for months after U.S. officials discovered he crossed the border illegally years ago. Now he can't get a green card for at least 10 years. The boys and their dad are only able to talk over the phone.
I'm trying to be as happy as possible because I know that I'm talking to him at least.
It's really sad, and I don't really understand why. It was like 20 years ago, and like he's our dad. Like a dad can't, like a family can't really be like break apart.
Helping out during the trying times is Amy Lyons, a parishioner at Our Lady of Mount Carmel Church in Williamsburg. She's signed up as guardian for the boys so they aren't forced into foster care if their mom passes away.
I just have faith that I'll have the strength and the, that I'll manage it, and do well for them.
Amy and other friends are trying to get Benjamin into the U.S., enlisting the help of doctors and politicians. But so far, the request for a humanitarian return to the country has been turned down twice. Maria is praying to God.
Please, I need staying for my son. I'm sorry. Thank you for this day.
God is God, so I know that God is listening to me.
In Brownsville, Brooklyn, Tim Harfman, Currents News.
An 89-year-old man turned the tables on a would-be criminal who tried to rob him, and it was all caught on camera. Geraldo Falcone works as a maintenance man taking out the trash at a building in Miami. Just before 6 a.m. last Thursday, he spotted a man running down a ramp to rob him, but he stood his ground and fended him off.
This suspect comes in through the gate and tells him to give him his watch. Instead of complying and giving him the watch, he basically goes into his pocket, pulls out a pocket knife, and tells him, "Get back, get back." And the suspect comes back with a bag over his right hand, pretending that he has a gun, still demanding that the victim give him his watch. The victim did not comply, and then the suspect fled.
The crook left empty-handed and Geraldo was not hurt. Miami police say they recommend being compliant if someone tries to rob you so that there is no more loss of life. But they did commend Geraldo for his quick defense at almost 90 years old. There's a special supplement inside the latest edition of the tablet and a whole lot more. Here to give us a preview of all the stories we can expect to see this week is the editor-in-chief, Jorge Dominguez. Jorge, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you.
This special section is titled The Class of 2019. Tell us about it.
Oh my God, this is one of the best special sections that we have all year because it's about our students in the Catholic high schools and other schools, but especially high schools. And we have the All Scholastic Tablet Team, which is 18 wonderful young men and women who are going to the college now. And we have like a profile of each of them. It is a wonderful section.
Well, Bishop DiMarzio's column this week highlights the Catholic school difference. What is he writing about?
Well, Bishop DiMarzio's column was the perfect column for this week because, all the special section, 32 pages, is about our Catholic school and the achievement that they have, all the things that they have achieved there. And Bishop DiMarzio, his column is, of course, an opinion column, but he is a numbers man. He gives you a lot of details and facts on why the Catholic education really makes a difference in the life of the students. You have to read it.
And there's another terrific story in the paper about student athletics and the CYO Hall of Fame. Quickly, tell us about that.
Well, all sports organizations have a Hall of Fame. This is a very special one because we have clergy, students, athletes, teachers, everybody can go there if they are really special. This year they have 9 members in the sports section. We have a profile of each of the new members of the Hall of Fame.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jorge. The tablet needs your support to ensure that Catholic journalism will thrive well into the future. You can do so by subscribing to the tablet so that it comes right to your mailbox. You'll save up to 55% by having it delivered to your home versus paying for it at church. Go to the website thetablet.org/home55 or call 877-883-8356. And the tablet has a brand new page called Our Diocesan Family where you can share your pictures of recent baptisms, Holy Communions, confirmations, marriage, all the joyous sacraments. For more details to submit your photos, go to thetablet.org/Our Diocesan Family. Your picture may be published in an upcoming issue of the newspaper. Still to come on Currents News, Futures in Education is pulling out the golf clubs, putting to raise money for Catholic education, and how this 97-year-old man became indispensable to his local library branch. We'll be right back. Golfers at North Hills Country Club in Manhasset offered a round for kids hoping to get a Catholic education this afternoon. Futures in Education and the Catholic Youth Organization partnered up to hit the green today. The money raised will help kids in Brooklyn and Queens afford a Catholic education. Monsignor Jamie Gigantiello, the vicar for development in the Brooklyn Diocese, talks about the important event.
Today we've been blessed with a beautiful day, and I think it's because it's a good cause.
It's really important for events like this, like the golf outing, to be able to support the parents who choose Catholic education for their children. Now, Catholic education is a way for those children to be able to engage not only in their education, but as well as to be able to feed on their faith.
The charitable organizations hope to raise $200,000 for the cause. When library books get a lot of use, they tend to get thrown away. But one man in Kansas makes it his job to keep those books looking new. Even at 97 years old, Regan Garcia has that report.
Grant Poole is the library's master bookmender. Each book that comes to his desk represents a new challenge, some more difficult than others.
Some of them are really in bad shape, and I have a little trouble with those, but I've never found a book that I couldn't mend. Maybe they throw those out, I don't know.
He started volunteering at the library 37 years ago, and after doing a variety of different jobs, he was given the task to take over mending the books. While it took him some time to learn, it's certainly become a skill he's known for.
He's learned a real skill to mend books and to help repair items in the collection that become worn through use. So he's really extended the life of many materials in this collection.
He says volunteering at the library not only gives him something to do, it keeps him going.
I'm 97 years old and I can hardly walk, but I can get up here and sit down on this nice chair, and I'm in good shape.
To the staff, that's almost more impressive than his mending skills.
He never misses a day. He was here over 523 hours last year alone. So that's a quarter-time position, and he is always on time. He's always ready for the job.
For Grant, it's become much more than just volunteering.
If I didn't have this, I'd be in bad shape, I know.
Grant says after they got word of his talent, several people around his neighborhood have asked him if he can repair their books. That's Currents News. I'm Tamara Lane. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.